Aloha, aloha, a double aloha. Hello, everybody. This is Chris. This is the channel Comic Tropes After Dark, and you are watching the Weekly Spinner Rack. The Weekly Spinner Rack on vacation. So, let me just put out that I've got, I think, a good microphone and a good camera, but the layout itself, a little different. You know, I'm on shared Wi-Fi, so I'm only streaming at 720 instead of 1080. Obviously, sort of an awkward angle where that's my camera, but all my news and documents are over here. Super backlit. I'm trying to like adjust every once in a while the lighting so that you can see me. I've got limited options. That said, it should be more or less the same show as always. I'm going to talk to you about the comic book news of the week. I'm going to talk to you about some of the comics that I picked up this week. This was a standout. This is exceptional. I can't wait to talk about that. I'm trying to think, is there anything else I need to do to table set? I don't think so. Hey, look at this. Look at that hat. A loco was wearing this. He made it himself out of like, you know, these palm fronds. And my stepmom complimented him on it. So he just gave it to her. There's like a little bird dangling from it. How do I look? Do I look like a local now? Probably not. And I've got some color. Not that you could see it. But I am in Hawaii right now. I am in Oahu by Honolulu. And behind me is like a pool with a little waterfall, if you hear that. Next week, I will be in Japan. So let me give some shout outs to some of the folks here. And then I've got one more thing to set for expectations. But wow, we've got a lot of folks here. Let me scroll up. We got an energy drink, Comic Tropes After Dark. Hello, Rami. Hello, konbanwa to Moritaka. Hey, hello, sister. I know you recognize this view since you got to be here. Hello to Chris Anderson and Andy and Christopher and Danny, Joe. Aloha, Dave. Hope you're doing well back in bitterly cold Seattle. Hello. It is pretty bright today. Yes, it's so bright. The audio is great. I've got a good microphone with me. But thank you. Shane, lovely to see you. Circuitron. -4, that sounds rough. Not quite in Japan yet. That's tomorrow. Game Over Club. Wow, lots of folks jumping in. Hello to all of you. There's just so many. I'm trying to be polite. And yes, I'd love it if you hit the like button. Hello, Owen's Reviews. Aloha to Erwin. Chemdog, Daryl. We want more hats. Hello, Jason and Sergio. I will be in Japan, just not quite yet. Hello, Nerd Nonsense. This is great. We've got, and I'll just take a moment to say hello to like all the unique names that I'm seeing. If I miss you, I promise it was not a personal slight. There's a view if I like adjust the lighting one way or the other, like here. Let me see. Okay, that's too bright. But if I bring it down, you can sort of see behind me, and you can sort of see me. I can leave it at that for a moment. But obviously, I'm kind of dark, and I wanted you to be able to see me. Oh, thanks for watching. Yeah, and I'm wearing my Trash Movie Bonanza shirt today because you got to do your own promo. But I've got a new one up on this channel. Jim and I take a look at Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, The Quest for Sanity, potentially. Hello to all of you wonderful people. Let's see. And also, I've been using the time to basically relax. I'm really not putting in a whole lot of work, to be honest, other than doing a show like this. But I am using my sketchbook here. And like I did a study of the waterfall that's behind me there. It's not really focusing. Sorry. What else? I've been doing lots of notes for, I'll just briefly show that to you to see that I've been working. I've got several pages of notes for a comic story that I'm writing. And I miss my little kitties, so I drew them. Is that going to show up, though? Is it going to focus? No, it doesn't seem to want to focus. There we go. There's Jack and Lily. Not bad, right? So just trying to do a little bit of drawing while I'm here. A little bit of fun stuff for me. Hey, thank you so much, Steve. Woohoo, the show's profitable. And look, see how quickly I get dark? Like the camera wants to balance things in a very strange way. That's even darker. So let me just adjust it this way a little bit. Yeah, and hopefully that's okay. So how about, so here's one thing. I'm going to do the news in a second, the comic book news of the week. And I cannot figure out how to get, we're running this off of an iPad instead of a computer. And it doesn't seem to want to let me share another window. So I've done everything I can. I'm not able to sort of like show you the normal PowerPoint that I create. You're just going to have to look at this beautiful mug and listen to this mellifluous voice. I think that's a word, right? Congrats, Wayne. All right, so let's do it. We got to talk about Diamond, right? Diamond filed for bankruptcy. And let me get into what exactly that means, because there are different types of bankruptcy, and we're going to talk about the impact. There's quite a bit to say. Camera is just going after dark. 2 Baja Blasts for me. I've got a regular Diet Mountain Dew. Thank you very much, Steve. So what did Diamond do? Diamond Distribution has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. They did that back on the 14th, a few days ago. And Chapter 11 specifically gives a business time to reorganize and to have more time to pay its debts as compared to having them due and then you run out of cash and then your business is dead. If you successfully file for Chapter 11, it gives you more time and you might sell off assets. You might do downsizing. I don't know what they'll do. It's too new to know what Diamond will do. But I'm just saying that Chapter 11, the goal is to come back, to not go out of business. There are different types of different chapters of bankruptcy where there's personal bankruptcy, there's bankruptcies where you are going out of business and you're just selling off, the remaining assets. But that's not what that is. Oh, good. Thank you to Dow. Yeah, it is a beautiful background, and I'm only giving you a hint at it, but maybe when I'm done, I can focus a little bit more on just the pool. It's lovely. Anyway, Diamond does have a lot of assets, but they also have a lot of debts. Because as soon as they made this filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, one similar type of business, say, sorry, a fly landed on my elbow and distracted me. A group did make a bid to buy them. It's called Universal Distribution, and they're part of something called the Alliance Game Distributors. That sounds like probably board games and stuff, I'm guessing. Anyway, they made a $39 million bid to buy Diamond. And I'll be honest, that does sound low to me for Diamond's overall worth. But of course, you're going to bid low initially. And if you can get it, great. Adam, you do not need to understand the first 10 chapters in order to understand Chapter 11. I gave you the little bit. And we're going to talk about the impact because, of course, the next piece of this news that I had to explain was that Diamond is no longer exclusive to a lot of the bigger publishers, okay? Marvel, DC, Image, IDW, Dark Horse, Boom. Those are some big ones. They have all left Diamond in the last couple of years. But Diamond does still handle all the distribution in Europe for comics. It handles merchandise. If comic shops want to sell toys or clothes, things like that, statues, that's handled through Diamond primarily. And think of all the indies and small press Because Diamond will basically let any company pitch to them a book, and if it meets their quality standards and the price terms are acceptable, Diamond puts it in its catalog, and that's how you get big distribution for, like, you know, small press stuff. So that's a huge advantage. The indie market is definitely what will be hurt the most out of this, just to be clear. I'm not 100% sure what Universal's complete bid was for Diamond. That would sort of make sense because Diamond has several different departments, so that would make some sense. Yes, Marvel did file Chapter 11, and obviously they came out of it okay. Now, the biggest thing that hurt Marvel long-term was that they sold off their movie rights for dirt cheap. That's why they don't have Spider-Man. And it took them like a really odd situation to get back all the stuff Fox had, like X-Men. Good point. Distillery is still with Diamond, but I think Distillery has enough sort of big-name creators that they're probably going to be able to easily switch to something like Lunar if they want to. You know, they've got... They can network very easily. You know, you got to assume guys like Scott Snyder know people and could ease that transition if they need to. That's just one name. But here's the thing. Diamond owes people. The biggest one that they owe right now is they owe Penguin Random House $9 million. That's not a small amount of money to owe when you basically don't have a lot of working capital. The next biggest creditor is Bondi, because like I say, they carry a lot of merchandise, and they owe them a little over $4 million, almost $4.5 million. Why would Diamond going bankrupt hurt indie comics is a great question. The reason is, if you're truly indie, like you're just publishing it yourself or through a Kickstarter, or you're selling it yourself at conventions, that's fine. A lot of people trying to get to that next level or that only have one or two titles, maybe we'll say an Antarctic Press. They've been around for a long time publishing like Ninja High School. Ben Dunn, you might have heard of him. Somebody like that is like a small press that relies on Diamond to distribute their books to comic book stores, because comic book stores get Diamond's catalog every month, look through what they have for sale, and place their orders. So and right now, that's the only big distribution channel that those books have been using. Anyway, yes, I agree with Resistance. It's been a long time coming. We've slowly seen Marvel, DC, Image all leave, and so we kind of knew something like this would happen. Would this affect your own attempts? No. You could still try to do it traditionally. It's just before you print, you're going to want to decide how you're going to distribute. Maybe talk to a different distributor. Maybe talk to Diamond, see if they can still do it. You know, there are other distributors. Maybe you want to do it yourself somehow, like a fulfillment center type thing. Hire a fulfillment center and just... There's different ways to do it. So if you guys don't recognize this name, Shane runs... a small press, I would call it small press. I think that's fair, right, Shane? A company over in the UK. He's shared some of his books with us. They're great. You know, they've got some stuff like a Dracula book by one of Bram Stoker's descendants. He's got Claudia Christian's Dark Legacies. She's got a good name. And a lot of other interesting titles. And he's saying right there, that's 40% of their income. That's how they rely on getting a big chunk of their books out. Printer is separate from distribution, which is separate from the publisher. So there's like three sort of stages there. And printing is about to become a potential issue here in America if our new president, as of today, decides to go through with these tariffs that he's talking about for places like Mexico, Canada, and China, where he says that like it could be up to 100% tariff. Right now, for instance, a lot of comic book publishers print in China. The reason they do that is because those printers are set up to do interiors, covers, and the interior book plate. Whereas in America, we have so few printers that you usually have to send it to like maybe 3 different companies to get one book printed. That leaves room for a lot of error. So, haha, I'm doing lots of hilarious news today, right? But anyway, right now the tariffs on something like that are 7.5%. That means if it like your book is $1, you're paying like actually you round up like $1.08 for the actual cost. Now there's other complex costs that go into importing things. It's more than I think you guys want to learn today. But I'm just saying that like printing could become a real issue this year, and the distribution for small press is going to be a big deal. You know, is Lunar going to step up and say, hey, we want to take small press and indie books? I don't know. Is another distributor going to step up? Maybe somebody that like has focused up until now in Europe or Asia and is saying we want to take on the North American distribution? I don't know. So there's a lot of questions. No, I totally agree with you, Jean-Remy. The comics, you know, getting tariffed would be, you're right, like a lower concern, but it could really hurt comics because the prices would have to go up, or the it would be crazy. It would be crazy. So anyway, so far I've talked about that Diamond has filed for bankruptcy. Let me talk to you a little bit about what the fallout for this is. So first of all, Lunar stepped up in one way, saying that they would accept late orders for Image Comics for this past week. Lunar is the primary distributor for Image, but Image has allowed Diamond to order their stuff. They've sort of been like a secondary. They weren't exclusive, in other words. They weren't exclusive. But then the next day, Image said they will no longer allow Diamond to distribute their books. They're moving exclusive to Lunar. Basically, same as everybody except Marvel. But yeah, Diamond has carried almost all of the indie and small press stuff. They carry, for comic book stores, all the merchandise. If you want to get action figures, Funko Pops, a cool t-shirt, whatever it might be that your store carries, they've very likely ordered that through Diamond. That's a huge part of Diamond's business. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. Here's one interesting thing I saw. Yeah, stores could order just about anything from Diamond. They just wouldn't get a discount. A Diamond would be ordering it just sort of like a customer would, but they wouldn't have a discount available. Last thing I want to say to all of you about Diamond is that I saw one company make an interesting move, Vault. Vault is not a massive company, but they're growing, I think. They announced this week a direct-to-retailer option. So if you now go to vault.com/retailer, it allows comic book stores starting on February 3rd to order directly from Vault, and they'll handle getting somebody to mail the stuff from the printer to the stores, sort of cutting out a middleman. If a store signs up with Vault for the direct-to-retailer option before February 28th, they'll give that store 6 months of free shipping. Not bad. Interesting idea. So, you might be saying like, well, why doesn't somebody like, a Marvel or DC do their printing and do the distribution themselves? Just to be clear, there have been experiments like that. It never quite works. The economy of scale, to just do it for only yourself, it's never worked. And it's led to mistakes and problems. This is like a one-time thing. I'm very aware of like how it's backlit. To be honest, guys, I actually have a lamp right down here aimed at me just so that I'm not in complete shadow. But it's what I have to do, okay? Because otherwise I'd be inside and then I'd be interrupting my family. So this is not my normal setup. I'm on vacation, but I wanted to sort of talk about some of this big news and some of these amazing comics that came out. Oh, it's fantastic, Winston. Always nice to see you. Thank you very much. Yes, I'm on the pleasure planet. That always cracked me up that like Star Trek would have Starfleet, which was like, a bunch of goody two-shoes and stuff. But then they would have this planet that basically just had legalized hookers. And they were always like, oh, Riker, looks like you're going back to planet Risa to bang some Ontarians. What can I say, Captain? Who's Decker? I don't know Decker. All right, what other news do we have? Let me move my document. Oh, as long as we're talking about some of this stuff, I thought I'd pull up the latest market share news. So I think this is fairly interesting. DC had really big gains from quarter 3 of 2024 to quarter 4. We just got the quarter 4 results, and these are based on something called Comic Hub. So it doesn't have necessarily very precise dollar amounts, but that's the system that a lot of retailers order from. I wouldn't even say the majority, just to be clear, but a lot. And so it can at least let us know what the super likely top 10 or top 100 comics of the month are and what market share different publishers have, okay? So Marvel lost market share in quarter 4 from quarter 3 in 2024. They had 39.9%, almost 40% of the market in quarter 3 last year. They ended at 33.3, still the biggest, but they lost, that's like 6 points. That's actually like 6.5 points. That's a lot. DC, meanwhile, moved from 20.1% in quarter 3 to 26.9 in quarter 4. They moved up over 6 points. So it's almost an even swap between Marvel and DC. That's interesting. That means that, at quarter 3, DC was about 13% points behind Marvel. And now they're like, what? 6, a little over 6% away. Big ground. The remaining 60% of the market, more or less, it remained pretty steady. Image is at 12%. IDW has 4.2. Dark Horse has 3.9. I'm going down in order. Boom has 3.1, and that was a drop from 3.9. That's one of the other ones that changed. Boom went from the previous quarter, 3.9 to 3.1. Dynamite is pretty steady at 2.3%. Viz, for manga and stuff, they're at 2.1%. Titan has 1.3. Oni has 1.3. And then everybody else makes up about 9.7%. Yes, I will be testing you at the end of this to make sure that you're paying attention. And the winner will get a slabbed Amazing Spider-Man #1, graded at a 9.8. I'll just give that. No, I'm just. I watched half of Craven, and like you said, it's a bore, but also is more about family than all the Fast and Furious movies combined. Welcome to Olive Garden. We're here, your family. That was my perfect Vin Diesel, and it killed me. I just gave myself cancer on stream. Craven and Family. It's such a boring movie. I'm having fun talking to all of you. Hey, Bronze Age Nerd. Bronze has a great show after mine talking about the comics of the week. Oh, I didn't. I would have loved it if David Lynch could have reached even one more birthday. Huge fan of David Lynch. He'll recommend to you that you do something for yourself every day. And remember, keep your eye on the donut, not on the hole. Love David Lynch. Huge fan. It's not for everybody, but I loved him. I kind of like the Eternals okay, so I guess it's all a matter of opinion, but I thought Craven was significantly more boring than the Eternals. You got it. Desmond Cole. He's got the look. I guess might have the acting ability. Seems a little young. I don't know. Hey, I'm all for one of the doctors reaching such a high age that he actually seems like a Time Lord. Thank you for watching Trash Movie Bonanza. So that's all I've got to say about market share. But as long as I'm talking about DC, this is also pretty big news. Dan Slott, he has been exclusive to Marvel for about 20 years. Obviously had a tremendously long run on Spider-Man and has written other stuff that I've enjoyed. I like Dan Slott generally. I think his She-Hulk was a blast. I really liked it. I liked Superior Spider-Man. I made an episode about how I liked that quite a bit. He has written for DC, but not for about 20 years. Well, he's going back to DC. DC announced that he's going to be writing Superman Unlimited. That's a new book that will start in May. The artist, Raphael Albuquerque. Great artist. Raphael Albuquerque was originally the artist that was supposed to be on Absolute Superman. But the floods down in Brazil, I believe, where he lives, the floods, he was doing a lot of volunteer work and dealing with problems with his studio and stuff. So Rafa Sandoval took over that book. But now Raphael Albuquerque is doing a new Superman book, Superman Unlimited. As far as story, I'm going to cough. That great impression I did has killed me. I guess they've got sort of like two big moves that they're doing. One for Clark Kent's life, one for Superman's life. A big kryptonite asteroid is going to land on Earth, and that means there's tons of green kryptonite now, meaning that villains like Intergang will have access to kryptonite weapons. That'll be a big change for Superman if his weakness is just weaponized all there. And then for Superman, the Daily Planet has gone through a merger with the sort of Weasley evil Morgan Edge and his Galaxy Communications. So talking a little bit about how you become a journalist and do good work in today's day and age. Yeah. Sorry, Doc. I had to do a Vin Diesel impression, and it instantly gave me 3 strokes. You don't like Raphael Albuquerque? Well, it is very stylized. It is very stylized. And I don't like everything that's stylized, but Albuquerque works for me. Albuquerque works for me. But I'd have to have a book in front of me to really sort of break down those techniques. I like it. Great point. Yes, that was announced. Huck came out a long time ago, and as far as Mark Miller goes, Huck is like the most feel-good comic that Mark Miller has made. It's about a superhero that's like autistic, and he lives in a small town, and he just does one good deed a day to make his town nice and safe. It's cute. It's charming, actually. Anyway, so Superman Unlimited comes out May 21st, and that's obviously pretty shortly before the movie, July 11th. It's a pretty big, what would you call it, sort of promotion. You know, it shows a lot of faith in DC. Yeah, I know that people are divided on Dan Slott. I generally find his writing pretty good. I'm not going to say perfect, but generally I like his ideas a lot. Oh, man. All-Star Superman. I'm very likely to make an episode about that before the movie comes out. It's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorite books. Moving in news. Oh, this is kind of a fun one. Writer Mark Russell worked with Mike and Laura Allred on Superman Space Age, which I loved, and Batman Dark Age, which I liked. I didn't love as much, but I liked. And he's going to complete that with a third book, a trilogy. He's going to make it a trilogy by doing a Wonder Woman story. DC has not formally announced this, to be fair. Instead, Mark Russell told the podcast and website Comic Book Club at the Fan Expo New Orleans that this was happening. And I will say, I talked to Mark Russell at, where was it? Might have been, Dave, was he at Rose City? Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, good. Yes, it was at Rose City that he talked about this. And he said at the time at Rose City, he said that's what he wanted to do. Not that it would definitely happen. He said he needed to see what the sales were for Batman Dark Age. But he said that he wanted to do one with Wonder Woman called Wonder Woman Golden Age. So I assume that will be the title. And since it hasn't been formally announced, we don't have a timeline or anything, but it's likely to be a 6-issue series like the others. Superman was 2022. Batman was 2024. Following that logic, it would seem that early 2026, a Wonder Woman piece, just sort of talking about her life. But I really recommend, folks, Superman Space Age is a good Superman story. It may not quite hit All-Star Superman, but it's along those lines where it really tells you something important about Superman. Really, really good. Oh, look at that. Maybe. I love Mike Allred. Love, love, love his work. This is the craziest story I've got to talk about with Marvel. Ryan Reynolds is being sued for $400 million. And a piece of that is the guy suing him says that the character of Nice Pool in the Deadpool and Wolverine movie was created to mock him. What? I didn't think that Nice Pool was that embarrassing. Top 3? Mulholland Drive, Blue Velvet, and Wild at Heart, probably, but it might change on a different day. I love Eraserhead. I love Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me. So anyway, there's this guy, all right? His name's Justin Baldoni, if you haven't heard of him. You might have, because he's in the news a lot. He was the director and star of the movie that came out this past summer, I want to say. It was called, what was it called? It Ends With Us, okay? It stars Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds' wife. And it deals with her being in an abusive relationship. She contacted authorities to say that she was being sexually harassed by this guy, okay? And the studio did a quick investigation, found that there was means to believe her, and gave her various protections for the rest of the filming of that movie. Now Baldoni says, Reynolds and Lively are so powerful, they're like destroying my career. And yeah, I said Baldoni, Chini. And, I think it's crazy, but who knows? And his lawyer was on, Baldoni's lawyer went on Megyn Kelly's, talk show, whatever it is, news interview show, to talk about some of this stuff. And he alleged that the character of Nice Pool in the Deadpool movie was created just to mock Justin Baldoni. And I'm like, okay, the closest thing I can sort of figure is that, like, at one point, Baldoni had a man bun, and sort of so did Nice Pool. But Nice Pool was legitimately nice. I mean, he was, like, kind of, like, misguided and weird. Oh, it's so weird to me. Okay, my wife's following the Lively Baldoni story. He sounds like a real piece of, yes, I agree, Mike. He seems terrible. And I can't believe that it is, like, gotten to the point where it has involved Deadpool. I think that, like, another thing that they said about Nice Pool that was supposed to be mocking Baldoni is that Lady Pool shows up with a bunch of Deadpool variants at one point, and they're like, oh, she had just had a kid, but you can't even tell. And they're like, oh, see, that's the lawyer's like, yeah, because, allegedly, according to Blake Lively, he made fun of her weight. And I'm like, that is a big stretch to me. That is a big stretch. You believe that he believes that. That could be. Yeah, that's the other thing is I'm like, well, wait a minute. Even if that's satire, I think that that's covered by the fact that you're a public figure. I don't think that rises to the level of harassment because it wasn't like the Deadpool movie had in the credits, his address and phone number, and we're like, fans, call this guy and tell him he's a piece of shit. So, pretty strange piece of news. You may see it in the gossip columns. Just wanted to mention it. I don't know if it falls under what you would call free speech, but I think even if it was based on him, and the timing is questionable, I think it would. I think it would still fall under satire rules. I don't think it rises to harassment. $400 million. Oh, my bad. Yeah. Anyway, I'll talk about another Marvel thing. This amused me. In March, Marvel is going to launch a new Star Wars book. It's called Star Wars Jedi Knights. It's by writer Mark Guggenheim, and I've liked a lot of his TV and comic book work in the past. An artist named Matebek Musabekov. I don't know who that is. But anyway, this is, by the way, set just before Phantom Menace, so the characters it will involve are characters we've seen before, like Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Yoda, presumably the rest of those weirdos on the council, like the guy with the really tall head that I feel like is always going to cut his own head off with his lightsaber. Or wasn't there like a Jedi on the council that had like a bunch of like floppy tendrils off the back of his head? He was like a green guy with fish eyes. And he was like, I was always like, he's going to swing his lightsaber and just chop his head off. No Darth Jar Jar. Sorry. Anyway. So, this is the book, okay? For the villain, Mark Guggenheim is using a canceled Star Wars toy that actually never got produced. Back in the 80s, when Kenner was producing Star Wars figures, they got to the point where there was Return of the Jedi, and they made some very feeble attempts to continue the Star Wars line with a couple new small vehicles, but they didn't really create any new characters. But they were thinking of it. They had a whole story called The Epic Continues, and the main bad guy was going to be, a guy with this golden helmet and red robes, and he was called Aetha Prime. It was never used, but Mark Guggenheim is going to use him as a villain for the Star Wars Jedi Knights, so it's actually going to come into continuity. The tall head is Ki-Adi-Mundo. Yes, Kit Fisto is the guy with the floppy tendrils that I always think is going to take him off with his lightsaber. So anyway, go ahead and Google, if you are a fan of Star Wars, Aetha Prime, A-T-H-A Prime. And one of the variant covers looks like, a fake toy. They've done that a million times, but it does feel appropriate for a villain that was based off of a toy that never got realized. Now it probably will become a toy. Yes, like using Ugly Sonic in the Chipmunks movie. That was pretty funny, by the way, getting Tim Robinson to voice Ugly Sonic, the original version of Sonic. That was funny. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, on Disney Plus, there was a direct-to-streaming Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers movie where they live in the real world, kind of like Roger Rabbit, and they're at a convention where the original design for Sonic the Hedgehog, before they redid all the effects, he works the convention circuit. It's really funny. I was talking about Yarrail Poof. Well, at least I wasn't talking about Wilro Hood, a.k.a. Ice Cream Machine Man. That's a deep pull of a character in the background of Empire Strikes Back. When Lando calls for Cloud City to be evacuated. There's a guy running around in the background with a big piece of machinery that people always joked looked like a McDonald's soft serve ice cream maker. And eventually they did make an action figure of that guy, and they named him Wilro Hood. Yeah, and Andy Samberg voiced one of the Chipmunks, and the other was who? John Mulaney. It's really funny. I thought it was good. Here's just a quick rundown of some upcoming Marvel stuff. I'll just sort of slam it out. That sounds somewhat interesting to me. One is called The Superior Avengers. It's going to be written by Steve Fox, art by Luca Maresca, who I assume is from Italy, like 98% of Marvel's artists these days. But it's going to feature an Avengers working for Doctor Doom, one of about 30 new teams. But they're all new versions of supervillains. Question mark as to whether they actually are those supervillains. But they're going to use Abomination, Dr. Octopus, Ghost, Killmonger, Malekith, and Onslaught. They all work for Doctor Doom. That could be fun. No updates that I saw on that, so I'm glad I don't have to talk about it this week. What else? Marvel Rivals, obviously a hugely popular game. Marvel did 6 mini issues on their Unlimited platform. That's written by Paul Allor, art by Luca Claretti. Again, I assume an Italian artist that is willing to work for less than American artists. But anyway, that's being collected into one physical book. So if you're a really big fan of characters like Jeff the Landshark, you might want to get the Marvel Rivals comic. There's a Avengers book by Chip Kidd and Michael Cho, okay, with like the original Avengers lineup. It's called The Veracity Trap, but that got delayed. That's a graphic novel. That'll come out August 5th. Finally, X-Men editor Tom Brevoort posted to his Substack that Chris Claremont is currently writing a Wolverine and Kitty Pryde miniseries. I'm always curious what Claremont does with X-Men. Yeah, I don't know about you guys. I thought the trailer looked quite promising. Quite promising. I want it to be good. I liked the Netflix Daredevil show. I thought overall it was quite good. And the idea of tying Daredevil in even more closely to the MCU is lovely. I want it to be good. When they called the show Born Again, I was worried that they were going to retell that story again, which they already did basically on the Netflix show. But it does make sense here. It's basically like, apparently the trailer indicates Daredevil did something that made him decide to retire from being Daredevil for a while. So it's more just like they're using that title, like he is coming back. And I like that idea. Oof, yes. If you're not super familiar, Kitty Pryde has used the N-word 3 times in the comics as a point, to 3 separate issues, I believe, but at least 3 times, like said the full hard N-word, saying like that it's just as bad as saying mutie, which I get the idea, except one is real and one is fictional. So I was always like, that's questionable at best. That's questionable. Luke was great. You know what? Like, I liked everybody on the Netflix shows so much that I'd honestly even be okay with them bringing back what's his name, Finn, that played Iron Fist, as long as they took the time to have really good choreography, because he himself wasn't necessarily like that bad. The fight scenes were pretty average most of the time. But Colleen Wing on that show was fantastic. I would love to see Colleen Wing come back, basically. And I liked what they did with the supporting cast by the end. I loved season 1 of Jessica Jones. Seasons 2 and 3, I was kind of iffy on, but season 1 I thought was pretty good. I thought it was pretty darn good. Yeah, I know a lot of people didn't like it, but Colleen Wing was such a good part of that. I'd love to see her come back. I'd love to and get Misty. I mean, just give us Daughters of the Dragon. Give us Daughters of the Dragon. Come on. I don't know, but I'm looking forward to it. Oh, the wildfires, the LA wildfires. We seem to have reached a decent turning point. Last I heard, the Palisades fires were over 50% contained, and the Eaton fires were over 80% contained. So it looks like we're moving in a good direction there. But obviously, a lot of people still affected. A bunch of comic book people have stepped up to help out. Daredevil was really good. Daredevil was really good. Yeah, I liked Hellcat okay. Anyway, one of them is Mike Mignola, okay? So Mike Mignola currently on eBay has signed movie posters and original sketches starting at like $500, or maybe it's even buy it now for $500. It's under his wife's account, and that's Chris MIG57. No spaces or underscores or anything. Chris MIG57. You can buy original Mike Mignola art, and that all, he says, is going to the World Central Kitchen, which is a great organization that helps any sort of people that are dealing with disasters, helps get them food. Also, Tokyo Pop donated $10,000 to the BINC Foundation's Southern California Fire Relief Fund. So that helps bookstores, comic store owners, employees. I always forget what BINC stands for, but it's some sort of bookstore association. Yes, there is a bird very close. Oh, I am in paradise. There's no question about it. It is gorgeous here. You all know that I love G.I. Joe. Well, Skybound announced a pretty cool initiative for G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero. That's the main series that's up over 300 issues that Larry Hama has written. They're going to do 5 one-shots that are all completely silent, like the famous issue 21. And if you don't know that story, real quick, issue 21 was running late. So Larry Hama was the writer, and he decided to draw it himself too and cut out all the dialogue so that it could make the deadline. He turned it into like a ninja story with Snake Eyes, Storm Shadow, Scarlet, and Destro. It's fantastic. A great issue. Great art, great story. Moves things forward with Storm Shadow quite a bit. Very famous. Probably the most famous issue of G.I. Joe. And anyway, so they're going to honor that silent issue by doing 5 different one-shots in April, one for each week, each Wednesday. There's 5 Wednesdays in April, okay? So it's set in that continuity too, not the new Energon universe continuity. It's set in the existing continuity where they have a lot more characters. Phil Hester is going to do a story about Beachhead, trapped in a demilitarized zone. The writer Daney and artist, what the heck? Did it just give a thumbs up when I did that? Okay, I saw something on my, what? Are you guys seeing that? Like a silly little thumbs up when I do a thumbs up? Or is that only for me? Oh, well. The second one is by Daney with artist Dan Waters. That's about Jinx having 20 seconds to escape a Cobra base, and each page represents 1 second in time. Leonardo Romero, great artist, did some great stuff on Birds of Prey recently. He's doing a story with Spirit investigating a Cobra experiment in a forest. Andrew Cranky is doing a story about Roadblock with his 50 cal machine gun being hunted by Wild Weasel, the pilot that's in the Rattler. And finally, Wes Craig. What did he do with Rick Remender? It's that great book, Deadly Class. Wes Craig is doing a story about Duke tracking down a traitor, a G.I. Joe traitor, in enemy territory. He's supposed to kill him before they can get back to Cobra. Let's see. Does that do anything? Does this do anything? That is so silly. Hi. Thumbs up. Oh my God. That is ridiculous. What? I did not know that StreamYard was set up to do that. Oh my God. Don't hold back. Party over here, party over there. Don't hold back. Double salute do anything? Do the heart hands? Like what, like this? Or like this? Oh my God. I had no idea the computer. Oh, it's Apple, because I never do this show on an iPad. All right, that was fun. That was fun. Thank you, folks. Who here is a fan of Richard Corbin? Famously did Den, D-E-N, for Heavy Metal Magazine. It was turned into one of the movie segments, voiced by John Candy. That's just one thing you may have seen. Did a fantastic Hellboy story, Crooked Man. So, anyway. Cool. There's a couple Corbin fans. There we go. I like that. Dark Horse announced that they're putting out a collection of werewolf stories that he did. If you don't know, Richard Corbin has a unique style, but very well acclaimed. He's in the Will Eisner Hall of Fame. He won the Grand Prix Award at Angoulême once. The book is a hardcover. It's called Rolf, like the Muppet dog that played the piano. Rolf and Other Fantasy Stories. That's the name of the book. Rolf and Other Fantasy Stories is going to be a hardcover with 3 different werewolf stories. 2 of them feature Rolf. There's also a new introduction by Hayao Miyazaki. Hayao Miyazaki did the intro for this book. It's called, the 3 stories are The Beast of Wolfton, The Spirit of the Beast, and The Story of Oteg, which is an adaptation of a Japanese legend. I'll get it one day. Let me do one more. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Bat Out of Hell, Meatloaf, famous iconic cover. But I just wanted to put that on people's radar. Last piece of news. 2000 AD. Judge Dredd, Rogue Trooper, Slain the Horn God, many other characters. They have a podcast. It's called the 2000 AD Thrillcast. Okay? And they announced that they're doing 3 more ongoing podcasts. January 15th, they're starting a weekly podcast on Wednesdays called In Orbit Every Wednesday, and that's going to be about 2000 AD comics news. Probably a short podcast. On the second Saturday of every month, starting February 8th, they're going to have a monthly one called The Deep Dive, and that will always just be an analysis of a classic 2000 AD story or comics from the Treasury of British Comics Archive. And also monthly, the 2000 AD Creator Tapes will start, and that will feature interviews with 2000 AD creators. Could be fun. If you like this, you might like that kind of breakdown. I didn't realize I left the comment up the whole long. Does the salute do anything? No. Tastes like thumb. All right, that's all the news I was going to talk about this week. do a thumbs down. This is ridiculous. I had no idea. I had no idea. I guess this is old news to a lot of people. No idea. Early pandemic silliness. That does seem to be the case. So I read some comics this week, but before I even talk about the comics that I got, I'll just mention I got to meet a really great guy, an artist that lives here in Honolulu by the name of David Nakayama. And he gave me a few comics that he's done covers for. You might recognize some of them. There's a beautiful Transformers cover. He did one of the Thundercats variants for issue 1. Look at that Space Usagi. I love Usagi Yojimbo. That's a great cover. He did this one with a bunch of female Marvel heroes. And during the last Hellfire Club gala, he did this one with Black Cat and Mary Jane Watson. And he was kind enough to just give me some of his covers, which I would not have asked for, but I'll definitely accept because they're gorgeous. And we had a great time. We got some comics. We went to get lunch together, and we talked in depth about comics, but like we talked a lot about covers and art and art theory. Thank you, Joshua Hayes. 2 thumbs down. The people have to know. What? Oh, my day is ruined. $2 isn't enough. So anyway, I had a great day. Yes, I did. I met David at first at a place called, I think it was called Other Realms in Honolulu. And it was nice. It had a lot of stuff. In fact, I picked up a couple comics. I read a couple that I normally get digitally. And I picked up one local comic. There's a group called Mana Comics. That's not focusing very well, sorry. And they've got this one called Amakua, which is like full of like sort of an Avengers that are from Hawaii, the different cultures and ethnicities that make up, what do you call it, Hawaii. They've got Sista Shark. They've got this Korean on rollerblades. They've got a Gecko Man. I don't know. It was kind of fun. What else? What do I want to talk about? Tell you what, I'm going to narrow it down to just saying, like, I picked up Storm because they had David's cover, so I just decided to pick that up. I thought that was a unique idea to draw Storm, excuse me, in sort of a Western gear motif. Made me think of, like, her time spent with Forge, but that's just for fun. You know, David and I talked a lot about what it takes to make a good, engaging cover. And he had an interesting opinion where he said he feels that whenever possible, putting as much of one full character, the full character, really catches the eye. And I thought that was interesting. We also talked about like finding pleasant shapes, you know, circles and triangles and stuff. So that's a Beyonce reference. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, I liked how they did, how David merged it with the clouds too. Hold on, I just put it on a sticker. Yeah, has her, that makes sense. I mean, Storm, and yet her hair is blowing in the wind to almost look like clouds. That's clever. That's some really good thought. It was an okay issue. It involves Storm meeting with Dr. Doom. And there's some supernatural stuff. I'll say that the latest issue of Spy Family was hilarious. Really, really funny stuff. If you've never picked it up, like it's great. I didn't need to remember anything that was going on before this. Look, it is a humor book. It also has action, but I was really funny because there's a point where this guy called Yuri is depressed. and he's just sort of like walking through the streets depressed. And I'm trying to find it. He walks right in front of a truck and gets hit, and then he's fine because this is cartoonish. When he gets to work, his boss says, "Stop getting hit by trucks, Yuri." Oh, yeah, okay, just real quick. So Yuri's depressed. He just steps into the crosswalk and gets hit by a bus. And then over here, his boss is saying, like, or a coworker is saying, "Stop getting hit by trucks." Meanwhile, there's stuff with Anya trying to get a star for, like, you know, and actually like learning how to study well. And she does that because they get some neighbors that are like elderly people. And even though this gentleman has some early dementia, he was also a teacher, and he's able to like teach Anya to become a better student. It's charming. Incredible Hulk. This was the last issue Danny Earls drew the interiors for. Now he's doing a bunch of DC stuff that we'll see pretty soon. Great battle with a werewolf god. Great battle with a werewolf god. But the two that I really would love to talk about a little bit more, especially this one, was Ultimate Wolverine and You Won't Feel a Thing. Oh no, you know what? Before I even get to that, excuse me. Let me just real quick mention, I also read digital versions of some comics. Feral, issue 9 came out. And Feral is by Tony Fleeks and Trish Forstner. This issue involved the cats trying to escape from a hoarder's house full of infected cats with rabies. And the lady has also, this hoarder has also now become infected. And she is drawn horrifically. Horrific. It's so creepy. It's good. New Gods #2 was good? Really, I've heard a lot of people say that they like what Ram V is doing there. I didn't really care for it. It was very, I don't know. Maybe I should give it another chance. I don't know Rare Flavors. Sorry. I have a theory, too, that I'm going to mention, and I really hope I'm wrong. Or I hope it doesn't go that way. Daniel Warren Johnson and Reilly Rossmo and Mike Spicer released a new issue of The Moon is Following Us. And it was really cool. It involves some big losses from the good guys because there's a massive betrayal. So that makes it seem like the story is escalating in a way I was not predicting. I'm trying to think of stories where a mentor figure is revealed to be the enemy. And I'm not coming up with any, but that's basically the idea, is like a mentor figure is actually an enemy, which feels like a big betrayal by issue 5. I won't reveal exactly how it all happens and the fights and stuff, but it's pretty awful what happens to these parents that are just trying to rescue their poor daughter. Great issue, great art, cool action sequences. There always are. And in the letters column in the back, Daniel Warren Johnson said that they're halfway through. So I guess this is going to be about a 10-issue story, apparently. There was a Gundam series where the mentor was an enemy. Batman Begins. Batman Begins is a great example. Invincible? Yeah, kind of early on, but you're right. That counts. That counts. Rush Hour. Oh, yeah. He wasn't super important in a way, but I know what you mean. Long John Silver. Well, there we go. 10 issues long. The Moon is Following Us is definitely good. I can't say that it's my favorite thing that Daniel Warren Johnson has ever done, but I do like it a lot. And so it's a strong recommendation. Strong. Yeah, I can think of, like, you're right, like, you know, people that were sort of bad guys, but that's not quite the same as, like, when it's a real important key character. This is more like if Obi-Wan Kenobi just utterly betrayed Han and Luke and Leia to, you know, halfway through the movie. That's all I'm thinking. Glad that you're here. In the, what do you call it? The last digital issue that I picked up was G.I. Joe #3 from the Skybound universe, which again was pretty cool. The cool thing about the Skybound universe is that they are killing off here and there people that you would consider main characters. You know, they've killed off Bumblebee, they've killed off Rock and Roll in Transformers and G.I. Joe respectively, and it does give it stakes. Also, Clutch has basically always been the somewhat goofy vehicle driver guy, right? He has embedded him. He put on a Viper outfit in the chaos of a battle and has snuck into one of the Cobra headquarters. And he's so in over his head that you really think he's going to like get himself killed. It's dangerous. It's really cool to see a guy that like, he is good at what he does, but he's not Snake Eyes or Duke. You know, he's not one of these guys that would like embed himself undercover. He's a vehicle driver and mechanic. He just saw an opportunity, and that's cool. It's really cool to see him in trouble like that. I also like that they've introduced a new G.I. Joe character that, you know, we haven't gotten in any of the comics, cartoons, or toys before. A guy named Risk, who's really good at hand-to-hand fighting, and definitely butts heads with Duke, and that's pretty interesting. They haven't introduced Shipwreck in the Energon universe yet. Clutch has to come through in the end. It's in his name. I like that. I never heard about that rumor. Oh, trust me, Disney Sea is pretty special. I've been there, I think, 3 times. It's good. It's good. Not this trip, but I have had Hawaiian shaved ice. Are we going to meet your dad? He doesn't want to be on camera. Sorry. I'm probably not going to be too much longer on the show. Your G.I. Joe code name? Is that your G.I. Joe code name, Randy? I'll give you all code names. Mine's Think Tank. So, Ultimate Wolverine, right? Written by Chris Condon. And so I was primed to think that I would very likely enjoy this book because I enjoyed Chris Condon's work on the Western crime story. I'm forgetting the title right now. That Texas Blood. You can call him and ask him, but I don't think he wants to come out and get in the background. I was primed to like it. I really do like the artwork by Alessandro Capuccio, I believe is the artist's name. Very detailed in a way that I enjoy. There's a lot to like about that. By the way, I think that this Ultimate Wolverine, who is essentially, I mean, he just is the Winter Soldier in this. That's his costume. It's like a red star across his chest. Instead of an X or anything, it's a red star. Rob Liefeld is online saying he came up with that design, but he just has more of like a V. And I was like, it's not the same. It's not. I'm sorry, it's not. But it's pretty brutal. It's pretty brutal because this is the Winter Soldier under full mind control, and he's cutting down people that are the resistance against these 3 mutants that run all of Europe and Asia. Colossus, Magic, and Omega Red. They're bad guys in this universe. And look at like him chop people up. I don't know if it'll focus. I mean, you see claws going through some dude's head. That's pretty hardcore. It's not nice. Imagine Bucky as Winter Soldier, but with Wolverine's powers. He's like dropping himself out of airplanes without a parachute and then just hacking people up. But it turns out, like, you know, before he was brainwashed, he was friends with a guy like Nightcrawler, who's forced to, you know, try to defend himself. Things go bad. I mean, right now, this Winter Soldier is under full mind control. And the idea of Wolverine under mind control, I guess we have seen that before in the main universe. Mark Miller and John Romita Jr. did a story called Enemy of the State. And it wasn't too bad. It was a good story. But this is cool. We're rooting, you know, even though he's doing bad things, we are rooting for Wolverine to break out of that control. And we're really mad at like the people that are brainwashing him and aiming him at people. But he's doing some bad stuff, and he'll have some stuff to atone for. Atonement stories work very well. That's a trope, you know? A guy who's done some horrible things and wants to, or gal or whatever, and wants to redeem themselves. Redemption stories are good. I really liked that TV show Angel. It was the spinoff of Buffy. And that was 5 years of him trying to redeem himself. It was cool. Oh, yeah, there's lots of mutants outside of just Japan. Like, the stuff that Peach is doing is more of like a cult. Not a cult. It's a cult. And then the stuff that they're doing with Ultimate Wolverine is more like a small group of mutants that are weaponizing them, and it's more of a Cold War situation almost. Fresh Catch has Poke. I'm having a great time here. Alessandro was the artist on Moon Knight. Very, very good artist. Yes, I mean like the band The Cult. Anyway, I do strongly recommend it. Again, the absolute and ultimate stuff that Marvel and DC are each putting out are pretty darn good. The last book I want to talk about was my favorite thing that I read this week, which is saying something because I really like both Spy Family and Ultimate X-Men a lot. You Won't Feel a Thing is written by Scott Snyder with art by Jock. They've been a good team before. It's a crime story. Good, like that. Jock is a good artist for crime type stuff. You know, lots of dark shadows, angles, hard angles, but like realistic. Here's what's cool about it. Okay. The main character became a detective and worked for like as a criminal profiler in DC for like, you know, the FBI and other national agencies. He was really good detective. And he believed that there was a serial killer out there his whole life that he calls the Chatterman, someone that would steal one tooth from his victims and create like this mask of like, you know, teeth that would rattle. But he could never officially prove that that person was real. Now he's in a retirement home with early dementia. Okay. And he's got now evidence that killer could be real and could be somewhat nearby. But obviously he's dealing with forgetting things. So he has to be really smart, but he knows that he's fighting himself as well. And he's also like probably got a limited amount of time before he's got a tumor in his head. And that's what's causing the dementia. So he's got limited time. Now, what I really, really hope that there is not a twist that tells us, guess what? He was the killer all along, and right now he's forgetting that. I would hate that. Maybe these guys could earn it, maybe. But I don't want a twist like that is all I'm saying. I want to see this guy going up against his limitations and trying to find this killer who killed his first girlfriend. It's just that I do see some hints that could lead me to think that he could be the killer. I hope not. I don't really want that story. Yeah, it's Memento with dementia, but you put a laughing head, and I felt like it was a really great crime story. It's really cool, like character work. It's really good investigative work. I like a lot of it. Was it? I never saw season 3 of True Detectives. Season 2 kind of turned me off. I didn't finish it. I'm probably going to go swimming after this. Last day here. I've been going swimming almost every day. You guys can't see it, but I do have some color. Maybe you'll see it when I do the next show. When I do my next one in Japan, when I do the next weekly live stream, we requested a window in our hotel that would be facing the fun stuff in Akihabara, all the big buildings with like toys and anime and stuff like that. But I don't know that that's going to be the final. To answer a question, this is not an ongoing, it's a limited series. This is issue 1. So I really hope that there's not like a predictable twist, because I think that like kind of could be seems too predictable, but I like this issue so far. I really like the character and I love the idea, the premise. It's cool. No, you guys don't get to see my Speedo unless you, there haven't been anywhere close to enough donations. Tell you what, if I get over $200 cumulative in donations, I'll put on my bathing suit. It is not a Speedo. I really don't want to show off my ugly body, and I don't think you want it. Down to $248. Minus 20 Fahrenheit with wind chill in Syracuse. Enjoy the swim. I will. Tomorrow I go to Tokyo, where the weather will be much colder. But I've had a wonderful time here in Hawaii, taking it easy, hanging out with my dad, my stepmom, my wife, and we've done a bunch of swimming. We've driven around the coast and seen, pretty features on the coast. We've had some good food. It's lovely. It's been great. I got to meet David Nakayama in person, and we had some really in-depth conversations about art, and that was great. That was really nice. So it's been good to take it easy. I think you guys know that I try to work hard on making the show for you. I haven't I've taken a trip or two to for a weekend to a convention here and there, but I haven't taken a vacation proper in over a year. So it's nice to have a little bit of downtime. And I was like, I can still carve out about 2 hours to do this. This is fun for me. And I can't quite balance being completely backlit, but this has been fun. I saw the snow on the ground where you live, Gene Z. I know. I'm glad that you got to spend the time that you did here. I'm sorry we didn't overlap. Oh, man. It's been good, though. What did you guys read? Did you read anything that I did not pick up this week? Because I heard Rare Flavors and I heard New Gods issue 2. Was there any other things that you would say was exceptional in the past week? I would still, right now recommend hardcore the You Won't Feel a Thing. I'd also say that Spy Family and Ultimate Wolverine were really good. Heartstopper, you finished, Beowulf? Nice. Didn't like Rogue. I didn't read it. Hellboy box set. Very jealous of that. Aquaman. Man's Best Friend. Oh, Man's Best. Yeah, I heard that was pretty good, actually. I didn't read it. The Road is pretty hardcore. The Question, Snot Girl, Castlevania Nocturne Season 2. Ain't No Grave. Well, since you just mentioned it real quick, if you love the artwork of Jorge Corona, and who wouldn't, Jorge is on my friend Jim and Sean's show, Ink Pulp Live, this Wednesday night. So I recommend that. I love Stray Dogs, yes. Snow in Louisiana? Thank you for the super chat, Dr. Schubill. Good luck with that. Leave your water running so that your pipes don't freeze or anything. I don't know that book, Beowulf. Resurrection Man, Ultimate X-Men Volume 1. Very good. Very good. Simon Hanselman. I haven't started reading my G.I. Joe compendiums yet. I hope I can find some time to. Yep, I saw that a Nice House by the Sea came out. I'll probably pick that up in trade paperback. Magic. I think Comic Tom did a variant cover for Magic #1 with John Boy Myers, if I'm remembering right. I'm not 100% on that. You liked Rogue. FML and Challengers of the Unknown were good. I like the cover of the latest Challengers of the Unknown. The book is My Brother's Husband. a meditation on LGBT acceptance and culture in Japanese society, as well as Western influences therein. Are there any of my high noons left in the fridge? I don't think I saw any, but I'll double check. We've been kind of going through any leftovers in the last few days here. So I take it that the audio was good. Camera was sort of only okay. Sorry that I didn't have any visuals to go with this one. Hulk versus Godzilla, I don't know about. Was that one of the upcoming Marvel books that they announced? I love the idea. Batman and Robin is good. That's by Chris Somney, right? I like Somney's art. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. We've had snow since the end of October. We just had a squall with 80-kilometer-per-hour winds. Ooh. Hawaii's gorgeous. Hawaii's gorgeous. Like, I'll just get out of here so that you can see a little bit of the pool and the vegetation. Here, let me adjust the lighting the other way. Hold on, so that you can see the background a little more. I'll get dark, but you can see. It's pretty, right? Sorry, get that out of the way. So that's one end of our pool. I'm not showing all of it because my family is using it. Anyway, I'm going to take off. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for the super chats. I had a fun time talking about comics with all of you. I'm excited to see what I can find next week. There is a place in Akihabara that sells current American comics. I think it was called Blister Comics. So I may stop there and still pick up some of what's new this week. We'll see. Yep, off to Manga Land. It should be good. Spending, I think, 10 days there. And I'll be back in February. Thank you all for watching the latest Comic Tropes episode. Verse Comics I've been to. Yes, Verse is a good one. I have been to Verse. While I'm here, I've been doing some strong research into Ryoichi Ikegami, who is a manga artist, famously did Crying Freeman and a few others. But I think that the part that could be most interesting to my viewers, including all of you, could be talking about his somewhat unsuccessful Spider-Man run. They did a Spider-Man manga, and it really was not much of a hit. And I think I'd like to do that as an episode next, talking about Ikegami and his techniques and maybe why Spider-Man didn't quite work at the time. But yeah, it was still. I think that's what I'm going to do next. But the episode I did on Frank Frazetta is doing quite well, and I appreciate the support. I really did. So let's see. We'll do this. Ding, ding, ding. And if you haven't seen Sonic 3, I strongly recommend looking up at least Galvanize Sonic 3, because Jim Carrey does one of the funniest dances I've ever seen in a movie to that song in Sonic 3. I laughed out loud in the movie theater, quite loud. And I've watched that scene on YouTube a few times. It's pretty funny, to be honest. So anyway, you guys are awesome. I'm going to take off. Thank you so much. You know the mission. Keep reading comics. Double salute. You all earned it. Thank you for your support. It's always fun talking to you all about comics. Bye.